and remember, always remember, for all eternity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lieutenant Commander Rex Stewart Wood was from Moulton. He was a U.S. Navy pilot who flew numerous combat missions over the most well-defended areas of North Vietnam there was. And those areas were further increased every time there was a bombing goal. More SAM missiles would come in, and it'd be even more dangerous for our pilots and also for these individuals here whose names are on the plaque, because more weapons and so forth would go down the Ho Chi Minh Trail. One day on one mission, Rex Wood's aircraft had a mechanical malfunction, and it crashed in the ocean, June 2nd, 1967. And he was a Navy aviator aboard the Bonhomme Richard, which is, if you remember your history, the ship that John Paul Jones sailed during the Revolutionary War against the British. Is there anybody here that would like to speak about Rex Wood? Well, when you think of the Vietnam War, you got to think of the Special Forces. The Green Berets were a creation of President John F. Kennedy. Counterinsurgency. Well, one of these 13 was the Special Forces. Its Sergeant, First Class James Derwin Corin of the 5th Special Forces Group was killed in action in Laos while leading a combat patrol January 12, 1968. They were in Laos with the Montagnards. They were hit with an ambush, and Sergeant Corin and 2 Montagnards didn't come back. They died together. The rest of the patrol was able to be evacuated out by helicopter. It took a while to get a picture of Sergeant Corin, but somehow we found it, and he's on the plaque. Some of your programs may not have it on here, but it's right here. So we're good to go on that. At the bottom of the first plaque, we have a quote from John 15:13. Greater love hath no man in this, than a man lay down his life for his friends. And certainly Sergeant Corin and those 2 Montagnards did that for each other. At the bottom of the first plaque, we have the Combat Infantryman Badge and the different divisions that were represented by these servicemen. The Navy ships that the 2 naval officers were on are right next to their names. We have the 9th Infantry Division, 1st Cav, 25th Infantry Division, Airborne Special Forces, and the 101st Airborne Division as well. Well, the second plaque begins with Sergeant Harry Aldebert Barber. Is there anybody here who would like to speak about him? Well, this individual didn't even have to go to Vietnam. Well, at least not the second time around. He was a combat engineer, and he had already served his year of duty. He already did that. He didn't have to go back, but he told an individual in Moulton who lives in New Mexico now, that if he didn't go back, there'd be somebody inexperienced out there trying to clear the mines off those roads that wouldn't know what they were doing. So he went back. He was killed in action during a road clearing operation on July 8, 1968, and I believe it was an ambush at the same time. And that's what he did. I guess you could think about him as an individual now in Iraq and Afghanistan looking for IEDs, the same type of thing. Sergeant Lloyd Earl Valentine of B Company, 3rd Battalion, 47th Infantry Regiment of the 9th Infantry Division. They were stationed in the Delta, which was in 4 Corps. Lost his life in a non-hostile action in South Vietnam. He was an infantryman, been out in the field, but then one of those non-hostile actions happened, as it happens in conflicts. Nonetheless, he served his country well as an infantryman. Yes. Oh, great. Come on up. Fantastic. Thank you for being here. The lights are kind of bright up here. I know the crew's doing a good job, but I just didn't see you initially. Thank you. That's all off the cuff.
All off the cuff. I had no intentions of saying anything. Lloyd went to Vietnam already knowing what it felt like to lose someone because he had an older brother that died in Korea. He left for Oakland from Kansas City Airport on Thanksgiving Day, 1967. When he arrived in Vietnam, he was transferred or put into the 9th Battalion because that was not the company that he started out with, or the battalion. He ended up, and he loved water, but he ended up serving with the Mobile Riverine, which was stationed in the Mekong Delta. It was a combination Navy, Army venture that had not been put together since the Civil War. They would be on the Navy ships for so many days, and then they would be transferred by Navy ships or little boats of some sort, to the jungles, and they would be out there for 3 or 4 days, and he was in the mortar platoon. He had served his time, and it was a non-hostile action. His last letter that I got the day before he died said that his alert orders to come home were aboard ship. And sometime between that and actually being able to pick up his orders the next morning, we received word that he had stood up on a mortar, tripped, and fell over and drowned. Kind of ironic since he had such a great love for water. But I think, like, in my mind, I wonder, all of these guys, when they went doing a job, and it was a job he believed in, and he felt that he could make a difference there and make it a better world for them, especially the children. And I think, like in the song, is heroes. They just do what they do.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Specialist 4 Lloyd Wesley Jones, infantryman of the 101st Airborne. He was killed in action on April 18th, 1969. Is there any family members or anybody who would like to speak about him? I'm going to look carefully here because the lights are pretty bright. But he was in the 101st Airborne, one of the most well-known units in the United States Army. And I know out there in the audience right now, we have a couple of infantrymen from Vietnam. Sergeant Coltrane from Moravia, and also Sergeant Hyatt. And it's a great honor to be with them on Memorial Days and other occasions. They were out there, and They knew what these guys went through, especially these infantrymen, because that's what they did. Chief Warrant Officer Albert B. Crouch from Seymour was a helicopter pilot, U.S. Army 1st Aviation. Was killed in action on May 18, 1970. Is there anybody from his family or anybody out there who would like to speak concerning him? Well, from what I know about the individual, he was coming in for a landing to get some troops. The aircraft was hit hard, and he didn't survive that. Being an aviator in Vietnam was no piece of cake, that's for sure. The enemy had a lot of anti-aircraft type weapons, but definitely it was a way to get people around given the terrain and so forth in Vietnam. And they really performed their tasks nobly. He was in a combat unit. Nonetheless, many of these aviators were called to rescue wounded from the battlefield. Sergeant First Class Ernest Leroy Ramsey of the 1st Signal Brigade lost his life due to non-hostile action at Vinh Dinh Province, South Vietnam on June 11, 1970. He's the only one we don't have a picture of. It's like, just couldn't find one. I just couldn't find a lot of information about him. We looked on the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall site, looked on the virtual wall, and virtual wall, from what we later learned, was really the best site to go to, but they didn't even have a picture. So we really need some help with this individual. A few mentioned before the ceremony they're going to be looking at some high school yearbooks, and maybe that's something we should have addressed maybe a little bit earlier on, but fortunately we can still add these pictures. But nonetheless, we appreciate his service for this country. Corporal Michael Carter Lawson, I believe he is a CHS graduate, if I'm not mistaken. He was of the 25th Infantry Division, was killed in action, Long Can, South Vietnam on February 9, 1971. Is there anybody out there that would like to speak about him? Another infantryman, and they were the ones that really earned the pay out there, no question about it, facing danger every second of the day. And in those kind of units, everybody had to be on alert, that's for sure. And finally, I know we've got some relatives here for this one. He was the last one to lose his life from this county in the Vietnam War. And that's Sergeant E5 Dennis Martin Craver. Served as an infantryman of D Company, 1st Battalion, 506 Regiment in the 101st Airborne. He was killed in action on Don Tien, South Vietnam on April 26, 1971. And I'm hoping that those relatives come forth. If they'd like to. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, we certainly appreciate his service and what he did for this country.